In southern Peru lies one of the world's most impressive archaeological feats, Machu Picchu. Even after 6 centuries, these vast Inca ruins remain almost entirely intact, attracting over 1 million visitors each year.
Behind Machu Picchu's construction, it's a testament to the ancient Incas' sophistication as builders, engineers, and even astronomers.
July 1911. The clouds break over the Andes, and Hiram Bingham finds Machu Picchu rising from the mist, a lost citadel the Spanish never found.
In 1911, American explorer Hiram Bingham headed into this inhospitable jungle in search of archaeological ruins.
And the jungle hid for centuries. But what if the greatest secrets of this mountain city are still buried beneath our feet? It became the crown jewel of Peru and one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Yet we've only understood its surface. Now, as LiDAR and DNA research begin revealing what lies hidden below, a $665 million international airport is being fast-tracked just 30 kilometers away. The question isn't tourism, it's timing. What might we lose just as we're finally starting to see? Machu Picchu was just the surface. What we know now that we didn't know 5 years ago. In September 2023, a team led by researchers from Italy's CNR and the University of Warsaw published something remarkable in Scientific Reports, one of the world's leading scientific journals. Using a combination of satellite imagery, drone-based surveys, and ground-penetrating radar, they imaged the subsoil beneath Machu Picchu's Plaza Principal, the ceremonial heart of the entire complex. What they found was a construction history buried underground, evidence of how the site evolved, phase by phase, before it became the citadel we see today. They didn't dig a single trench. They didn't move a single stone. The technology read the earth like an MRI reads the body, non-invasively, layer by layer, revealing what was always there, but never visible. This matters because the Plaza Principal cannot be excavated. It's too culturally sensitive. It's too structurally fragile. For decades, that meant the earliest construction phases of Machu Picchu were effectively locked away. This study cracked the lock. That same year, a genetic study made Archaeology magazine's top 10 discoveries list. Researchers from Yale, Tulane, and UC Santa Cruz analyzed the DNA of 34 individuals buried at Machu Picchu. The retainers, the people who maintained the royal estate while it was in active use. These weren't rulers. They were the working population. And the results upended decades of assumption. These weren't local Andean workers drafted from nearby villages. They came from almost every corner of the Inca Empire, an empire that, at its height, stretched along South America's west coast from modern Ecuador to northern Argentina, highland Peru, coastal regions. And here's what stunned the researchers.
Researchers hope the data this experiment yields will help global policymakers better navigate climate change.
A full third of them came from the Amazon, the deep Amazon. Regions scholars had assumed were only loosely connected to the Inca state, separated by the wall of the Andes and the cultural chasm between highland and lowland civilizations. One of the lead researchers, Richard Berger of Yale, put it plainly. The Amazon was more fully integrated into the empire than anyone had previously understood. Another detail that reshaped the picture. Most of the males had highland ancestry, while a significant portion of the females traced their lineage to lowland and coastal regions. These people formed new families at Machu Picchu. They had children there. The site wasn't just a royal retreat, it was a functioning, ethnically diverse community. A microcosm of an empire that was far more cosmopolitan than the textbooks suggested. A single study, a handful of ancient bones, and suddenly the political and social map of the largest pre-Columbian civilization in the Americas had to be redrawn. Then came the LiDAR. In 2024 and 2025, drone-mounted LiDAR systems, laser scanners capable of seeing through dense jungle canopy, revealed over 12 previously unknown structures near the Cochabamba ceremonial complex, less than 5 miles from the main citadel. These weren't subtle anomalies. These were buildings.
In the ancient city of Chanchan, archaeologists have uncovered a mural and 19 sculptures from the Chimu culture.
Stone channels running partly underground, residential quarters, evidence of gender-specific living areas based on weaving artifacts. An entire water management system engineered with a precision that researchers could model hydrodynamically, virtually pouring water through 500-year-old channels to understand how they functioned. The lead researcher, Dominika Sieczkowska from the University of Warsaw, said something that should stop anyone in their tracks. "They were so close," she said about these hidden structures. "And we didn't even know they were there." Less than 5 miles away. Hidden for centuries. Found by lasers on drones in 2024. This is the critical context, not just that Machu Picchu is beautiful, not just that it's famous, but that we are still discovering it. The site is not a finished chapter. It is an open book, and we are only now developing the tools to read the pages, which makes what's happening 30 kilometers to the northwest very hard to ignore. Engines on the plateau. The idea of an airport at Chinchero has existed since 1978. That's 47 years. Nearly half a century of proposals, cancellations, corruption investigations, and political promises. Here's the compressed timeline, and pay attention to the rhythm of it. 1978. The Peruvian government first proposes a new airport near Cusco. The site chosen is Chinchero, a traditional Andean village sitting at 3,720 meters above sea level on a windswept plateau overlooking the Sacred Valley. Plans stall almost immediately due to Peru's internal armed conflict. Decades pass. 2011 to 2012. Residents in the development zone agree to sell their land. President Ollanta Humala signs expropriation laws. The project gains legal legs. So 2014, a contract is awarded to Kuntur Wasi, a Peruvian-Argentine consortium, for roughly $525 million. The plan is to replace Cusco's cramped downtown airport with something capable of receiving international flights directly into the Sacred Valley. 2017, President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski announces construction will begin. But almost immediately, the project detonates politically. The Comptroller's Office and opposition lawmakers accuse the government of restructuring the contract to shift financial risk from the consortium onto the state, essentially making taxpayers liable for the private sector's exposure. 2 cabinet members resign. The crisis overlaps with the Odebrecht corruption scandal, the massive Brazilian bribery investigation that was toppling governments across Latin America, implicating presidents, ministers, and construction magnates from Mexico City to Buenos Aires. In this climate, the Chinchero contract becomes politically toxic. It is canceled. The consortium threatens international arbitration. The project is, by all appearances, dead. And then it isn't. 2019, UNESCO formally asks Peru to halt construction until a heritage impact assessment can be completed, specifically regarding Machu Picchu, the city of Cusco, and the Capac Ñan, the ancient Inca road network that UNESCO had separately designated as a World Heritage Site. The World Monuments Fund echoes this call. Construction begins anyway under a new framework. The same year, Peru announced a government-to-government partnership with South Korea. Hyundai Engineering and Construction enters the picture. The project is reborn under a different structure, but with the same destination. 2021. The World Monuments Fund writes directly to President Francisco Sagasti, warning that land removal at Chinchero would cause, their words, the irreversible destruction of the cultural landscape. COVID hits. Delays compound. The opening date slides from 2021 to 2024, then to 2025, then to September 2026. 2024, President Dina Boluarte signs a new contract addendum. The scope is restructured. The original consortium now handles only the terminal. A separate tender for the runway and control tower is scheduled for 2025. But the political messaging shifts dramatically. The airport is no longer just a regional infrastructure project. It's now framed as the centerpiece of Peru's tourism-led economic growth strategy. The projected capacity, 5 million passengers initially, and with expansion plans to 8 million. For context, Machu Picchu received 1.5 million visitors in 2024.
Machu Picchu, one of the 7 wonders of the world, has reopened for tourists.
The airport is designed to funnel up to 8 million passengers per year into the same narrow valley ecosystem. Now, zoom out. Look at this timeline as a whole. For 40 years, this project couldn't get off the ground. Corruption, cancellations, international warnings. And then, in the space of roughly 3 years, during a period of extraordinary political instability in Peru, with a president facing legitimacy questions and nationwide protests,
Machu Picchu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has in recent times often been the scene of protests.
the project not only revives, but accelerates. That's not an accusation. That's a pattern. And patterns deserve questions. What's underneath Chinchero? Here's something that rarely makes it into the tourism brochures about the new airport. Chinchero is not empty land. It never was. Chinchero is itself an archaeological site, and not a minor one. The town contains Inca-era terraces, royal estates, and what historians believe was a palace complex associated with the Emperor Tupac Inca Yupanqui, Pachacuti's son and the ruler who expanded the empire to its greatest territorial extent. The terraces aren't decorative relics. They are part of the same engineered agricultural landscape that defines the entire Sacred Valley. Systems of water management, soil conservation, and altitude-specific crop cultivation that represent some of the most sophisticated pre-industrial environmental engineering on the planet. Systems that scientists are only now beginning to fully document and understand. The village itself has maintained traditional Andean textile practices for generations. Its Sunday market remains one of the last authentic expressions of highland weaving culture in the Cusco region. The cultural fabric, both literally and figuratively, is intact in ways that are increasingly rare in heavily touristed Andean communities. Natalia Mailuf, a Peruvian art historian at Cambridge University, described the landscape around Chinchero to The Guardian in terms that leave little room for ambiguity. "This is a built landscape," she said. "There are terraces and routes which were designed by the Incas. Putting an airport here would destroy it. And it's not just what's above ground. We've already discussed the LiDAR findings near Machu Picchu. Structures hidden for centuries under jungle canopy, discovered only because someone flew a drone with a laser. Now consider this. The area between Chinchero and Machu Picchu, the Sacred Valley corridor, has never been comprehensively surveyed with modern remote sensing technology. We don't know what's there. Not because it's been examined and found empty, but because it hasn't been looked at with the tools that are, right now, in 2025 and 2026, transforming Andean archaeology. We are building an airport on land we haven't finished studying, in a region where the most significant discoveries are happening because we finally have tools powerful enough to see what's been there all along. The environmental concerns are equally concrete. According to Oscar Paredes Pando of the National University of St. Anthony the Abbot in Cusco, the airport construction threatens at least 17 natural springs that feed lakes and wetlands throughout the Cusco watershed. Lake Payore, and which supplies nearly half of Cusco City's drinking water, sits within the impact zone. Corn-growing families around Chinchero have already been selling off farmland in anticipation of the airport. Hotels and lodges are replacing agricultural land that has been cultivated for centuries. And then there's the geology. Machu Picchu sits on intersecting fault zones. This isn't new information. Geologist Rualdo Menegat of Brazil's Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul mapped the fracture network beneath the citadel using satellite imagery and field data. The faults actually helped the Inca. Fractured rock was easier to quarry, the fissures channeled water for collection, and the drainage prevented the site from flooding during intense storms. It's a brilliant example of engineering with geology rather than against it. But those same faults make the region geologically active. Japanese researchers from Kyoto University's Disaster Prevention Research Institute have been monitoring slope displacement at Machu Picchu since 2000. Their extensometer data showed the back slope moving downward at approximately 1 centimeter per month, a rate they described as a precursor to potential rockfall. Italian researchers documented tension cracks in archaeological structures, suggesting a potential large rock slide at a depth of roughly 30 meters. Multiple international teams, Japanese, Italian, Czech, Canadian, Peruvian, have been involved in ongoing slope stability monitoring. The site is alive, geologically. It is moving. It is being studied in real time. Now add vibration from 8 million annual passengers worth of air traffic. And add the infrastructure construction. Add the road expansion. Add the sheer geological load of transforming a quiet agricultural plateau into an international transit hub. No comprehensive study has modeled the cumulative seismic and vibrational impact of the Chinchero Airport on the geological stability of the broader Sacred Valley corridor, including Machu Picchu itself. That's not a conspiracy. That's a gap. And in science, gaps are where the danger lives. Capacity vs. ambition. Peru's government frames the Chinchero Airport as an economic lifeline. And on paper, the logic is straightforward. More access means more tourists mean more revenue means development for one of Peru's poorest regions. But let's look at the numbers more carefully. Machu Picchu currently operates under a daily visitor cap, and in high season, that cap is 5,600 people per day. In the rest of the year, it's 4,500. These limits exist because UNESCO, the Peruvian Ministry of Culture, and conservation scientists all agree. The site cannot physically sustain more traffic without degradation. The airport is designed to eventually move 8 million passengers per year through the Sacred Valley. Machu Picchu currently receives about 1.5 million visitors annually and is already straining under that load. In September 2025, the new Seven Wonders organization, the body that designated Machu Picchu as one of the new Seven Wonders of the world, issued a formal warning. They cited over-tourism, high costs, irregular ticket sales, and social conflict as threats to the site's status. Separately, UNESCO has warned that uncontrolled tourism growth could jeopardize Machu Picchu's World Heritage designation.
Machu Picchu is Peru's most famous tourist spot.
So the international bodies responsible for recognizing and protecting this site are saying, slow down. The site is at capacity. The management systems are strained. The infrastructure can't keep up. And the Peruvian government's response is to build an airport that triples the region's passenger throughput. These two positions cannot coexist. Either the daily caps hold and the airport operates far below its designed capacity, which makes the $665 million investment economically questionable, or the caps increase to justify the airport and the site degrades. There's a third possibility that nobody in government wants to say out loud. The airport isn't really about Machu Picchu at all. It's about the land around it, the hotels, the tour operations, the real estate speculation that's already reshaping Chinchero, the construction contracts, the political capital of delivering a mega project. The Peruvian Institute of Economics reported that between 2020 and 2024, the Cusco region saw a 25% decline in visitors compared to pre-pandemic levels, roughly 5 million fewer tourists. 33,000 tourism jobs were lost. The economic pain is real. No one disputes that. But the question isn't whether the region needs economic development. The question is whether an 8 million passenger airport is the right tool. or whether it's a sledgehammer being marketed as a scalpel. And there's a bitter irony embedded in all of this. The very inaccessibility of Machu Picchu, the long flights, the train through the valley, and the bus switchbacking up the mountain, is part of what has protected it. The difficulty of arrival functions as a natural filter. It limits volume. It slows the human tide. It forces visitors into a journey that, by the time they reach the citadel, has become something closer to a pilgrimage than a day trip. Remove that filter, and you don't just increase numbers. You change the fundamental character of the experience, and you change the calculus of preservation. There's a term urban planners use: induced demand. Build a wider highway, and traffic doesn't decrease. It increases because the new capacity attracts new users. The same principle applies here. Build an airport that can move 8 million people a year into a valley, and the pressure to accommodate those people doesn't stay at the terminal. It radiates outward. New hotels, new roads, new restaurants, new waste, new water demand. The airport doesn't serve existing demand. It creates new demand, and the landscape absorbs the cost. The clock. Here's what makes this story feel urgent rather than academic. We are standing inside a narrow window, maybe the narrowest in Machu Picchu's modern history. On one side, the technology to discover what's hidden in the sacred valley has finally matured. LiDAR drones that can scan a square kilometer of triple-canopied jungle for roughly $1,000.
This is, I would say, the most accurate survey-grade LiDAR system in this category. Obviously, you can go up to airplanes and helicopters, you can go into the millions of dollars.
And return a three-dimensional image accurate to within 12 centimeters. Ground-penetrating radar capable of reading construction phases buried meters underground without disturbing a single stone. Ancient DNA sequencing that can reconstruct the ethnic origins and family relationships of people who died 5 centuries ago. Or on the other side, the landscape itself is being physically transformed before that technology can be fully deployed. That's the window. And it's closing. Think about what Sieczkowska's team found at Chalchabamba. 12 structures, 5 miles from the main citadel, invisible until a drone flew over with a laser in 2024. Some of those buildings were within 60 feet of already known ceremonial features. 60 feet. Researchers had walked past them for years. The jungle hid them that well. And these weren't trivial finds. Among them were stone channels running partly underground, engineered to supply water to ritual baths through a system so precisely graded that scientists could virtually model the flow using hydrodynamic software. Now scale that out. The historic sanctuary of Machu Picchu covers over 32,000 hectares, nearly 80,000 acres, of cloud forest, mountain ridge, and river valley. How much of that has been surveyed with modern LiDAR? A tiny fraction. Scientists from the University of Sydney proposed a broader scan covering some 12,350 acres around the citadel. But the full results of comprehensive valley-wide remote sensing remain a future project, not a completed one. What's beneath the terraces at Chinchero itself? What's along the Capacñan, the ancient Inca road network that UNESCO separately designated as a World Heritage Site, portions of which run directly through the airport construction zone? What's in the cloud forest corridors that connect Machu Picchu to Choquequirao, the so-called sister city that most archaeologists believe holds discoveries equal to or greater than Machu Picchu itself? We don't know, not because the land has been examined and found empty, but because we haven't looked with the right tools yet. And here's where the timeline becomes damning. In 2019, UNESCO formally requested Peru to complete a heritage impact assessment before proceeding with the Chinchero Airport. By the time of UNESCO's 2023 State of Conservation report, that assessment was listed as still being developed. In July 2025, at the 47th session of the World Heritage Committee in Paris, UNESCO's language sharpened. The committee used the word regrets, diplomatic code for genuine alarm, that updates on the HIA remained incomplete. and they explicitly urged Peru to develop land use plans for areas surrounding Machu Picchu prior to the expected increase of tourism pressure caused by the construction of the Chinchero International Airport.
It's also the spot where a new international airport is planned to be built. The state has been buying up land for the airport's construction.
The World Monuments Fund had been even more direct 4 years earlier. Their vice president for Peru, Martha Zagara, revealed that an initial HIA had actually been prepared and that it indicated impacts to Machu Picchu, but it was disregarded because it didn't comply with UNESCO's requirements. A US-based consultant was then hired to redo the assessment. Meanwhile, the Peruvian government publicly stated that the HIA was not binding and that land removal would proceed regardless. Let that sink in. An impact assessment was conducted. It found impacts. It was thrown out. A replacement was ordered. And before it was finished, construction continued. Every one of the scientific breakthroughs we've discussed in this video, the subsurface imaging, the genetic study, the LiDAR, was made despite limited funding, despite restricted access, despite the fact that the Sacred Valley's archaeological potential has been systematically under-prioritized relative to its tourism revenue. Consider the disparity. Machu Picchu generates hundreds of millions of dollars in tourism revenue for Peru annually. The archaeological research budget for the entire historic sanctuary? A fraction of that number. The site is one of the most profitable cultural assets on Earth, and the science that makes it significant, the research that explains why people come, is chronically underfunded. The airport will cost $665 million. A comprehensive LiDAR survey of the Sacred Valley corridor, the kind that could map every buried structure, every hidden terrace, every lost section of road before bulldozers reach them, would cost a few million at most, possibly less. Nobody has commissioned it. We began in 1911 with Hiram Bingham stepping through jungle vines to reveal Machu Picchu to the modern world. We arrive in 2026 with runways poured and engines preparing to echo across the Sacred Valley. The citadel survived empire, conquest, and 4 centuries of silence. But what it faces now is acceleration. Decisions moving faster than data, concrete setting before the science has finished speaking. The lasers, the seismic models, the DNA studies are still uncovering what lies beneath the stone, still mapping a story we barely understand. And when the next chapter is written, the question won't be what we built. It will be whether we were patient enough to learn what was there before we changed it.